Hey, it's Jason Coleman, your favorite celebrity loan officer. Thanks for joining me on podcast number 4. Today, my special guest is Sandra McGann with Realty One Group. Thanks for joining me, Sandra.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're talking about happiness and money. So, there's a lot of times in life when you have to make a choice, either happiness or money, right? Mm-hmm. So, we're going to take you on a journey and let you get to know Sandra a little bit and maybe some of the choices that she's made in order to choose one or the other. So Sandra, where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. I heard they make some great salsa out there.
They have great Mexican food.
Mexican food. How's it compared
Tex-Mex.
to Arizona? Tex-Mex.
Tex-Mex is way better.
It's way better than here?
Yes.
Because, I mean, Arizona's got some great Mexican food.
They
right?
do.
Yeah.
I guess because you grow up with it.
Yeah, I got to get out there, although I've been to Texas once or twice, and that's a long drive of nothing between here and there.
It's a big state, yes.
Yeah, it's a big state. So you grew up there, you went to college. You go to college?
Yes, I went to University of Incarnate Word.
Okay, and then what'd you go to study?
I studied psychology of organization and development.
You're not getting into my head, are you?
Always.
So you studied that, and then what was your plan? Did you have a plan as far as career goes after you left?
Yes, my plan was to be in the pharmaceutical industry.
Drug dealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know any other drug dealers in the business?
Yes, I had a few friends that were in the business, and it looked like a pretty good thing to do.
That's where you got all
gig.
your stuff in college? Is that what happened?
Yeah, so.
Just kidding. So you got into it and you started working after college, and you're married to this guy, this awesome guy named George.
Yes, he's amazing.
So how'd you meet George?
So before I graduated, I actually worked for a company called Nextel, and then they were bought out by Sprint. And they were
Nextel?
Yeah, you never heard of it?
What'd you sell?
Blackberries.
Blackberries. God, I think those are the worst. I mean, I was a flip phone kind of guy, but I guess you were pretty cool if you had a Blackberry, right?
Yeah. Some people don't know what that is nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't too keen on them. Those buttons were
Yeah.
So you met George through business,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys became friends.
Yes.
And apparently you guys hooked up because you're still together.
Yeah.
And then George got a job somewhere out of state.
So George is in the hotel industry, and moved around. He's lived in like 23 states his entire career. Yes, yeah. So he was running a hotel in Texas, in San Antonio, and that's how I met him initially. And then they transferred him to California.
And you followed him?
So we were actually engaged.
Oh, okay. So you're not like a groupie or something, like the George groupie.
But before that, I had gotten my first pharmaceutical job. And then they had a layoff, so that occurred. And then so we were just kind of waiting to figure out where we were going to be, and we got transferred to California in Burbank.
So you were telling me a little bit about this history, and you ended up getting another job in the pharmaceutical industry in California, mm-hmm. where you were actually just crushing it. You were like 1 or 2 in the nation in your industry.
Yeah.
And then George gets transferred.
So right around the 3-year mark, he got transferred to to Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, to run and renovate and convert a hotel there. They transferred him out, and I stayed behind because like you said, I was at the top of my career and getting the biggest bonus check of my life. So I stuck around so I could get that.
You stuck around,
Yeah.
And then you had the option to start a new territory in Georgia, right?
Yes.
But at that point, you decided you're pregnant with your first child, and you wanted to probably spend some time with your child.
Right. I just knew that something had to give at that point because his job was pretty demanding. I mean, the hotel industry is pretty demanding. Mm-hmm. And I always knew that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom at some point, for a little bit at least. And so, I left a pretty lucrative job to be a mom, and I don't regret it. Yeah.
And follow your happiness.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So that's one example of where happiness is going to override money. And the choices of wanting to spend time with your child, it's more important than making money, right?
Right.
But now let's go back. You're a super motivated individual. You have a degree. You were crushing it at the top of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got this in you, this entrepreneurship, this sales-driven thirst for life, right?
Yeah.
So how do you like balance that? Because once you're hungry like that, you're always hungry.
Yeah. So I started real estate classes when I was in San Antonio, which was 15 years ago, before we ever moved to Los Angeles. And then when we moved...
and your family does real estate, right?
Yeah, it's in the blood. So my dad was a broker for 45 years. Both of my sisters have a RE/MAX office in Texas. And my sister Sheila has been doing it, I don't even know, like 25, 35. She'd probably get mad at me if I quoted wrong, but something up there.
Wow,
so she's been a broker
decades.
for, yeah,
so
just like my father.
She's probably aged not too well from all that stress. I'm just kidding.
She would probably say the same thing.
So you guys got moved again, obviously, because you're here now in Arizona.
Yes.
And that's when you decided, hey, now we're going to put down some roots, hopefully.
Yeah.
And get your real estate career moving again.
Yeah. So full-time mommy for about 5 years. And then we relocated again to Phoenix. We've been here for 8 years now. We just actually hit our 8-year mark.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, when we moved here, I told my husband, if we're moving again, you're moving by yourself.
Ouch.
He knew what I meant. It was 2 moves across country in a 5-year time span, and that was enough for me.
You really probably really respect the armed forces.
Yes,
people
yes.
employed with the armed forces.
I can relate to
I've got some friends that they move every, I think, 2 years.
Yeah, it's not enough time.
I can't even fathom that life. I'm just not about moving. But I mean, the benefits that come with it are very lucrative, in your retirement years.
Sure. Yeah.
So at that time, so now you're back into it, and you've had to make a slow transition because, Bree, she's still pretty. She's what?
She was 5. Wait, 6.
6.
Yeah, she was 6 when I started.
So now how old is she? Like 8?
So she's 9 now.
9 now.
Yeah.
So she's starting to become more independent and allowing, while she's in school, you're able to break away. And actually, once they get into school, then it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I should get out there and start working.
Yeah, I just knew that I would always get back in, business, because that's always, like you said, I've always been driven. My mom's raised us all very independent. And so I always knew that I would get into some capacity, and real estate seemed like the best fit because I've always had my hand in it since I was young anyway. And also managed several properties that we own. They're all in Texas, but
so you already know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
And it's just after starting, you have to build your clientele back up and get that whole thing going, which starting all over brand new is always tough.
It is. I mean, and I would have been starting over in pharmaceutical too, but the choice was made to follow my husband's career and pick this back up when I could. And so, But
obviously the point there is that money isn't everything.
Right.
It comes down to happiness, and money won't make you happy.
Mm-mm.
Like, where would you be without George?
Right.
Yeah, you want to be happy. So I do think that money does make things easier, but at the end of the day, if you're doing what you love, money will come.
Sure.
And if you love what you're doing, then it's not going to be you're not working a day in your life.
What's that saying? They say if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate you joining me on my 4th podcast.
Yes, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you guys have any questions or would like to get in contact with Sandra, we're going to leave her information down here on the video. And what's your number just for the podcast? 623-282-4775. And you can also find me on my website, which is sandramcgann.com, or buysellivephoenix.com. She's awesome to work with, guys. So please reach out anytime. And again, thanks for watching. Until next time.
Bye.